All right, so it's exactly 7 minutes after 7. You're still here on the AM show. It's going to get really interesting now. We're talking about a subject that matters to all of us. We're zeroing in on our young people. So I'll just introduce to you my guest, Ishmael Selassie. He is the Youth Program Coordinator at PPAG, that's the Planned Parenthood Association of Ghana, and Kojo Asamoah Boateng, Monitoring and Evaluation Coordinator, also with the PPAG. So gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I know that you've done some research in some tertiary institutions on the usage of contraceptive, and you have a particular one that you did your research on. But before we get into the details of the research, I just want you to tell me how or what the situation is on the ground. Young people and the use of contraceptive, I mean, how is it like?
Okay, I think that we have some situation on our hands as a country as far as the use of contraceptives among young people generally are concerned. We have an unmet need for contraception amongst young people, which is about 43%. And that tells us that there are so many of our young people in this country who need contraceptives to prevent unwanted pregnancies, to prevent STI infection, to prevent HIV, and also to prevent any other kind of challenge that might come as a result of having unprotected sex. And that challenge is still there, and most of these young people are not getting the help or access that they need to ensure that they can use contraception. The other side of it is also the teeming level of ignorance amongst our young people as far as the types of contraceptives are concerned and how to use this contraception, and then also some of the side effects of some of the contraception methods that are available, and for that matter, whether or not to use a particular contraceptive method amongst young people. That level of knowledge, comprehensive knowledge, is quite low. Then the other challenge is also got to do with accessibility, the extent to which contraceptives are widely available to young people, that they can easily access it in their communities.
Yeah, they can go to the pharmacies, the shops to go and buy.
A lot of them will tell you they can go to a pharmacy, and when they get to a pharmacy, they can get it. They know that if they go to a clinic, they can get contraception. But the confidence to go into the pharmacy or to the clinic and then procure a contraception method. But also for those in very rural communities where some of these pharmacies and clinics are not even closer to them, accessibility becomes a bigger challenge.
Amazing. Is there something you want to add?
Yes. I think he has just said it all. The study that we did was basically in 3 selected institutions. That's the University of Education, Uniba, the Accra Polytechnic, and the whole Polytechnic.
Okay.
You know, we interviewed 1,013 students, and like he said, you would see that the usage of emergency contraceptive have really increased. But then the
emergency
contraceptive has really increased. But then the knowledge as to when to use it, when the EC is most effective and all that, that knowledge is still quite low. And for me, I think it is very, very alarming, because the rate at which the students are using it, and the knowledge being low, I think it is something that we should all come together and try to talk about it. And also you would realize that the usage of condoms also increased.
Is it the male or the female condoms?
The male condoms.
Okay.
Yeah, the male condoms. Yeah, also increased. Then,
amongst these persons that you had the conversation with.
Sure.
Okay.
And so one thing that he also raised is that they know where they can get these contraceptives, especially the emergency contract, which is it's available everywhere, the pharmacy shops and the drugstore, which they, out of the research, they all said they can access these contraceptives from the hospitals and the clinics, the drugstores and all that. But once they have access to these contraceptives, I think it would be fair or better that we try to give them more education on how and when it is most effective to use these emergency contraceptives. So I think this is highlights on the research.
But these are people who are not married. So some other persons will say, why don't we preach abstinence? Why are we preaching, let us make contraceptives available to them. Let us tell them how to use it. Are they not interested, particularly these people that you talked to in your research? Are they not interested in abstinence?
Yes, like you rightly said, the research that we did, it was found out that most of the respondents, about 40% of them, were either, in a relationship, either having a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and in relation to their sexual experience, that is, if they've ever had any sexual intercourse. And that with that it was also high. But the thing is that you keep preaching about abstinence, but the fact of the matter is that they are still doing it. They are sexually active, and the youth, once they are sexually active, it is some way, somehow, very difficult to tell them to stop. So the best way, or a way we can find, to reduce this STIs and all that, is to preach about how to protect themselves. That is through the use of the condoms, because definitely they will still do it. It's there. They are doing it. So it's something that we should take it from that angle. It is good to preach abstinence and all that, but the fact of the matter is that some people will still engage themselves in sexual activity. So those are the people we are trying to reach. If they abstain, hallelujah, we all thank God. But so far as there are people out there still engaging themselves in sexual activity, I think it is in the right direction if we keep on, having the campaigns, to promote the use of condoms and the right usage of the emergency contraceptive and all that.
So Selassie, how else do we tell them about contraceptives? What should we do? And in terms of making it available, how close do they want it?
Well, I think that we need to improve our messaging about contraception for young people, and then also have them understand and know the different varieties of contraceptive methods that are available for everyone, every woman essentially, and then condoms for men as well. Because the thing is that the more people get to know about contraceptives and understand the mechanisms of how contraceptives work on their body and where to access it, and if they have challenges from the use of contraceptives, to go back and get help, the better it is for the country. The point about abstinence, why we're not talking about abstinence and why we're talking about condoms, and these young people are not married. The fact is that at a certain stage in the life of any individual, they're going to start expressing their sexuality. And one of the ways they will do that is to engage in sexual activities. And there is no factor, or there is nothing that insists on the individual to become a married person before they start engaging in sexual activity. So our concern and our interest is to say that should that individual decide to start engaging in sexual activity, he or she should be safe from pregnancy that is unwanted, and should be safe from any form of infection, to ensure our country has a healthy population who are contributing effectively to our development, and ensuring that we do not increase our population at an alarming rate that people are not ready to take up responsibilities for what they're doing. So it is really a developmental need for the individuals, for the young person, even for their families, even for the church or for any religious organization. The availability and the use of contraception amongst the general population, including young people, is an absolute essential that we cannot override. But we are not saying that we have to definitely put every young person on contraception. Abstinence is an important choice and a very good one, the best amongst all. But where there are several hundreds and thousands of young people who are falling through the cracks and not necessarily abstaining, we must have a gap, a measure that ensures they are not, in falling out of the cracks, their life is not started because we feel that they don't deserve to use contraception. And in fact, this research, as he said, is conducted in tertiary institutions. The people who are in tertiary institutions, they are not necessarily very, very young people. These are adults who make informed decisions about their lives. And one of those informed decisions that they need to make is about having a better sexual life, a safe sex life if they are sexually active, just so that they don't have to drop out of tertiary institutions. If we have suffered as a country, worked hard to propel these young people from basic education to secondary, and they have ended up in tertiary institutions, it is just for the good of this country that they maintain their focus in school and study without having to worry about unwanted pregnancy or worrying about an STI infection and going to exam hall and fail and come out with bad grades. And then the country employs them to work in institutions, and we have problems if we have half-baked or poorly baked people working in our employment sector. So you look at all the different facets of the economy and you see that the person deciding to use contraception is actually contributing to the sustainability of our development.
Should we be extending this to the educational institutions, would you say, per your findings? Because if we're teaching, if students are learning about it in the classroom, it will be a lot more easier.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think so. During the dissemination of this particular findings, we invited the school, some of the school authorities and all, and some of the recommendations or the conclusions that were drawn as part of sustainability was that when the new students come in, the freshers, they have this orientation for them every year. So all the three institutions, which we will try to do the same in the other institution, they have this orientation for them. So they are trying to give us a slot, maybe an hour or 30 minutes, just to talk to them about these issues. So you can just imagine you being a fresher and you've been introduced to these issues. You getting to know about the rate of infections and all that on campus. You'll be alarmed. And whenever you want to engage yourself in any of these activities, you would as well think about how to protect yourself and all that. So I think that was one of the ways that the heads of the institutions suggested to us. So we are going to pick that up and deal with that through that channel.
So let me think as a parent, just for a little while, if I have taught my son to abstain, and I have not introduced my son to the use of contraception, and he comes to school, and the first thing he learns, as part of the things is, oh, I could actually have sex and not get a girl pregnant. Wouldn't we be doing two different things? Because I haven't taught him that.
No.
I have taught him that if he does it, he will get a girl pregnant, and that would mess up his future. Because, for instance, the money for your school fees could be channeled through taking care of a pregnancy. But here you are telling him that, oh, you can actually do it and not get a girl pregnant.
You see, this is the very reason we think that the work we are doing, we need to partner a lot more with communities and parents, because they have a very crucial role to play in the message that goes to the young people and how the young people use the message. It's a genuine concern for a parent to have to say that I educated my son or my daughter to abstain, but someone else is giving him or her another message. But essentially, the message that the young person is getting is only complementing what the parents have given to that young person. What the parents have said is just one part of the message.
So I see it's rude to cut you, but we would have to come back quickly and continue on this. All right, and I've got to apologize because you couldn't hear Selassie very well. Hopefully we'll get a better sound this time. So Selassie, we're talking about me communicating one thing to my child and you communicating another. Are we on the same page?
Yeah. So I was saying that it's important that the parents give that message to their children, but that is just one side of the message. The other side of the message is to also let the young person know that if you have or you need or you wish to engage in sexual activities, then you need to do so responsibly, and responsibly meaning you must have safe sex and also have sex in a way that prevents you from getting additional responsibilities that you're not ready for, and also preventing the spread of infection or contacting any infection like gonorrhea or syphilis or HIV or candida or whatever. And that messes that young person is because he or she is no longer under the covering of the parents when he or she goes to a tertiary institution. Even in senior high school, even in junior high school, they are having sexual intercourse. I mean, when there's time, it's time to write BEC, and then the journalist gives us the news about how many girls got pregnant and gone to the exam hall with pregnancy or have come to the exam hall because they are pregnant. That it shouldn't be something that we're excited about, and every year we're waiting to know how many girls got pregnant. It's only an indication of what really is happening with the young people as far as sexuality is concerned. So as a parent, genuinely, you should talk to your kids about avoiding or delaying the onset of sexual activity. But it's equally your responsibility as a parent to let the child know, should you desire to engage in sexual activities.
I think I've asked this before. How early should you start telling your children about contraceptive use?
As early as he or she can say, Mom, Dad.
Like, seriously?
I'll give you a typical example. A colleague of ours started talking to her daughter. She was in kindergarten, I think she was 6 at the time, and told her that, I mean, if the cameras can pick this part of your body and then this part of your body is your private part, nobody should have access to that except mommy, because mommy would have to bathe you and clean that part for you. Otherwise, no one else. The kid went to school and another kid in school asked her to remove her undies and they can play a game, and he had a broomstick. I mean, if I remove my undies and you have a broomstick, what are you going to do with a broomstick? And that required me removing my undies, and you want to play a game with me there. And the child said, no, that's my private part. Mom says so. So you can imagine what would have happened to that little child and another kid with a broomstick in kindergarten. So sex education and education about contraceptives is for all, but what we need is age appropriateness of the messaging that we are giving to the kids.
Because, you know, such a message for a kindergarten pupil, you know, that to say that this is your private, that's a good one.
Yes.
But that's easy to do. But, you know, to bring the condom out, to introduce them to the various pills and say, if you don't want to be pregnant but you're sexually active, this is what you can do. That's really difficult for any parent to do.
I understand, but the decision making is for the child, unfortunately. I mean, at that point where he or she has been swept off her feet or his feet by this girl or guy that she's madly in love in, and they have decided to have sex, they do not remember what mom and dad said about abstinence. But they are likely to remember that mom said, if I'm going to have to do it, I should use a condom. I should insist that he uses a condom or she uses a condom, because I'm not ready to be a father or a mother of a kid. I mean, the avoidance of us not talking to the kids about this and the consequences of it are far greater than that 1 minute shyness that we need to break and some form of confidence that we want to retain in our children. And not to say that the fact that the kids are educated about it, then they are going to use it. No. I started learning about contraception when I was in JSS through PPAG. But I never used contraception until I got married, and even now, it's as and when we want. And I've not made any girl pregnant. I don't have born 1 or born 2, wherever. But it's a decision that a person made based on his or her personal values, and values which would have been inculcated in the child from childhood by the parents who are responsible, and they are there. And mind you, there are so many parents who are not there for their kids when the kids need them. When a child has been talked to by a guy out there and being swept off her feet, and she comes home and wants dad to help her to make an informed decision about this guy. That is not there. That is busy. That is chasing money. That is on business trip. Mom is working, leaves home at dawn, comes home late, and the child is confused. I'm like, how am I going to make this? And she would ultimately make that decision. And unfortunately, it could be the decision to have sex, but without the confidence of even negotiating the use of a condom with a guy. All she knows is that she needs to lie there and have sex.
Amazing.
But that could be avoided if parents were bold and confident enough to engage their children to talk about it. Just even asking the girl or your son or daughter, do you have a friend? And I mean a special friend like that in primary school, in GSS, in SHS, before she goes to the university. Do you have a special friend? That opens a bigger conversation. And the kids want to talk, but we are not ready to hear them.
Yeah. Kojo, when you were researching on this, was there a portion where parents came into the picture? I mean, had they been introduced to it by their parents? Did anybody say that?
In fact, the research didn't focus on that, but as you know, the questionnaire that we used was a semi-structured questionnaire, so it's also open with, other avenues for them to share their experiences and other things. And but like I said, it didn't focus specifically on whether they've had such engagement with their parents and all. But just to add to what Ishmael just said, the truth of the matter is that these students or these youth find it very difficult to go to their parents when they need some of this information. So the people they would turn to is their friends. Now there is one variable or question in it that it's asked, where can you get this emergency contraceptive? And some of them actually were mentioning friends. They get them from their friends. How can you, and just imagine if your friend cannot give you enough education on how to use it. So in times where they need these things, they can go anywhere, they can go and ask anybody. So like he just said, at the time that the young person is about to have sex, he or she wouldn't remember what mommy told him or her. The only thing that might come in mind is, okay, we are about to do this, and I've had this information from the school during my orientation that we should be aware, we should protect ourselves during sexual activities and all that. Probably, or maybe, the person would think of using a condom and all that. But at that particular point, trust me, abstinence is far gone because they are almost in the act. So the only solution there is to use a condom, or afterwards they turn their back to the medicine contraceptive pills.
Yeah.
So that's why for us we think it is very, very important to do the education before, because from the statistics again, you would realize that sexual intercourse among the students, it's very high. It's very high, and there is no way you can tell them, or you can just tell them to abstain. Once somebody have started engaging in sexual activities, it is very difficult to tell the person not to do it anymore, to abstain. The person might probably, from maybe the information you give to the person, will stay back a little bit, but with time they'll just go back to it. So the best way is to just preach to them ways they can prevent, or they can prevent themselves from getting infected with any STI or anything. So I think the education it's good.
Let's talk about this emergency pills that you say is being abused. In what ways?
Okay, so the thing is that the pill is for emergency situations, and so a young person is not supposed to, or whoever, a lady.
Well, I may have an emergency every day.
If you have an emergency every day, then you need to go on a regular contraception method. It could be the injectable, it could be the everyday pill, it could be an implant, it could be an IUD that is inserted into the uterus. Then you prevent pregnancy from occurring. Plus the use of condoms, male and female condoms. The emergency contraception pill is supposed to be taken by a lady who has had an unplanned sex, or had sex and forgot to take the regular contraception in the case of the pill, or a method failure, be the condom broke or slipped, and you're thinking you might get pregnant. Then in that situation, you should go in for the emergency contraception. However, it is not supposed to be taken as a regular pill. Every time you have sex, you take the pill. You have sex, you take the pill. Or when you're going to have sex, you take the pill, you have sex, then after the sex, you take the second pill. That creates problems for your body. Your body gets used to it, and after a while, it wouldn't work. And we are getting indications that a lot of girls are coming to physicians reporting excessive bleeding, and the speculation is that it could be as a result of abuse of emergency contraception. Because in every case, they are asked, are they on emergency, and they confirm that they've been using emergency contraception, and oftentimes than it's supposed to be. And the risk of the challenges that could be created for that young lady because of abuse of ECs is too enormous. And that's why it's said that you don't take it as a regular method. You only take it when your regular method had failed, or you didn't take the method, or your condom burst or slipped. So it's not supposed to be taken every day, and once you have sex, you go for it. And I think the indication is that it's not supposed to be taken more than twice in a month or in a year by an individual. If you're taking it more than twice in a month, or I think in a year, then completely you're abusing. And some of the girls have said they take it like twice or 3 times in a month or more.
Yeah.
I mean, every now and then.
Because I was told of a situation where a guy had it,
Yes.
By the side of the bed. So afterwards, he would tell you to take it.
Yeah.
This becomes like a regular thing.
Absolutely.
And for me, I also think that as individuals, you should know your sexual activities, how often you have sex. And that should inform you that because of the frequency at which you have sex, you should rather go for the regular contraception, like he mentioned, the injectables, the IUDs, and the implants and all. So if your sexual activities is quite frequent, I think you should move away from the emergency contraceptive as a major way of trying to prevent pregnancy. You should rather move on to one of the regular contraceptive methods.
Okay.
Yeah, so you should assess yourself, how frequent do I have sex? But if you are someone like he said, he gave an example using himself, like he's been with PPAG, he knows a lot about contraceptives, but he has never used any of them. He was able to abstain till he got married. I mean, such a person.
So knowing about it does not necessarily mean that you're going to practice.
You are going to practice it, but then it is better if you know about it, obviously. So like I was saying, if you study yourself, you assess yourself, you know that you have a very high frequency of having sexual activities, then you should move on to the regular contraceptive method rather than using the EC as your main method. So
okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use about 5 minutes to open the phone lines and ask you parents out there, guardians, whether you be comfortable talking to your young people about the use of contraceptives. We want you to be as open as possible. So give me a call now if you have a comment to make on 0302 211 6910 0302 211 6910. Let's hear what you have to say. And if you have challenges with how to go about it, Kojo, and I'm used to calling him Selassie, but Ishmael will tell us how to do it. Maybe I should start by asking, how do you introduce the subject? I mean, especially, sometimes we're disconnected from our young people. Say your son or your daughter is now in the university. You have not been talking to that person about any of these things we're talking about. And suddenly you hear us discuss it on TV and you're like, okay, let me start. But how do you do it?
Well, several ways. Like I said again, it has to be age appropriate. But for instance, in the special case of a grown young person in JSS or SHS or in a tertiary institution, I mean, one simple way of going about it is to put a condom or a pack of condom on the center table. Especially during meal time, you put it on the dining table. And as you start having your meal or watching TV, then you ask, what's that on the table? And then somebody will say, I'm not sure, I don't know. And then it looks like a condom. That's a conversation started. And then it looks like a condom. Who brought this thing? Why did they come here? What is it for? Who put it there? What is it used for? You've started the conversation. And gradually you lead yourself you guide the conversation into whether or not they know about the condom, whether they know about the IED, whether they know about the emergency contraception, and under what circumstances is it used, and would they even use it at all? One parent told me what she did. I mean, she put a condom in the pocket of the son's uniform, school uniform in JHS. And when the son was dressing up, he saw the thing, and she was there. And he was like, what's this? And then the mother said, what is there? I want to see it. So he pulled it out, and then it was a condom. And they said, how did it get in there? He said, I don't know, mommy. And then the mother said, but do you know what it is? Do you know what it is used for? Mommy, but this one. So it opened the conversation, and the mother opened up to him. And trust me, that was the beginning of a strong bond between mother and son. Because the guy was not condemned in the first place, because, okay, this was fixed by the mother. But the intention of the mother was not to set the son up or to condemn him, but to open him up for them to start conversation. And one time the boy came home and mentioned to the mother, my girlfriend asked me about condoms.
Oh, wow. I want to hear more
And then
of that.
he was happy that the mother opened him up to knowing more about condoms before.
Because then he could also pass
Talk
the
to him
information
more,
on.
exactly.
Let's speak to Cecil. Hello, Cecil. Or Cyril. Okay, so I changed it, but there's a C starting. Hello, Cyril. Good
Yes.
morning.
Good morning, Mamavi. Yes, you are doing a great job.
Thank you.
I agree to most of the things said there. I think we should be able to open up as parents to our children. Gone are the days where it is very difficult to talk about sex. But these days, whether you talk about it or not, your child will learn about it in a different way, whether you like it or not. So I think we should be able to make this a policy in the education sector, so they can start teaching this as part of the subject in schools. This will help. Especially talking about contraceptive, Mama V, from Nogokbo, where I live, you wake up in the morning, cook apple, eat before you walk to the school. So there is no even money for contraceptive, neither for condoms. So in this part of the world, it is very difficult for a child to buy contraceptive or condom. So yes, sometimes culture does not permit this. Like I said earlier on, the world is moving forward. And so, though it is difficult, but we should be able to open them and tell our kids, our children that, look, this is what it is. If you practice it, this is the outcome. Let them know it. Let them know the danger in it. And so let them make the choice themselves, whether they would like to sacrifice their education, for whatever will be the outcome of what they're going to do.
Okay.
I think it's the best way.
All right. Cecil, thank you so much for your contribution. Let's move on to Ken Cyrus now. Good morning, Cyrus.
Good morning, madam.
Yes, sir. Thanks for calling. Let's hear you.
All right. I'm Cyrus, like you rightly mentioned, calling from Upper West Region, Dawa. Seriously, looking at the contraceptive issue, it's not the fault of the youth. That to me, the reason is when you are born into a family, most of the things you are able to do, you are taught how to do it. But when it comes to issues of sex, I see everybody wants to be pious, everybody wants to be religious, everybody wants to be an angel. So they don't want to talk about sex. It means the person gradually will also learn his or her way out to know what sex is about and how to go about it his or her own way. I think that's one of the problems we are having. If like in the family, you are taught that sex is when a man and a woman meet, maybe those kind of things. You are educated on sex, and you are also taught how to protect yourself, maybe by the use of some of these things. What we are seeing today wouldn't have been happened. But we are so much in tune to religion and other things. It's trying, like, we are not trying to spoil the children. If you introduce them to sex, they will get spoiled. No. The fear not to spoil the child will end up spoiling the child. At the time when he or she gets to learn of sex by him or herself, and will not even, because the way I may be, somebody said I will not eat a hat with the wrapper. After all, I will not enjoy it. So I will not even know that you have to use condom, you have to do this because you may not enjoy the sex, because that's not how you started it. So we actually need to educate our people at home, at the family level, to also educate their children on how to go about issues of sex. Even in the church, why? We are adults. You can educate people on how do you call sex issues. Don't just say don't go into it, don't do it, don't do it. If you don't, what is it? What is the name that you don't want somebody to do it? Okay. Let the person know and know the consequences, and train them how to go about it.
All right. Thank you very much, Ken Cyrus. And finally, in wrapping up, this whole conversation, can we take this to the church? Has anybody accommodated you?
Yes, I think in some of the projects that we've implemented already, we have other partners from churches, and we have other groups that we call the champions. They have come out clearly to support whatever we are doing. And
okay, so in asking if you've been to the church, I'm not talking about the married people, who a lot of people would say must know because it will help them to plan. But I'm talking about the youth. Because you know what the church stands on, youth and sex.
Yeah. No, I think that it would be good for our churches to open up to the conversation and to allow the young people in the church, the youth ministries, to engage professionals to educate the young people in the church to know about contraceptives. If nothing at all, for two reasons.
Okay, we'll come to the reasons. Okay. We'll come to the reasons. And Kojo, I wanted to know, have you been to, like a youth service?
Yes, sure.
Okay, I want to hear the experience, but let me speak to Abigail. Hello, good morning, Abigail. Thanks for calling. Hi, Abigail, you're on air. Oh, I apologize.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. I don't have Abigail, but I have you. Festus.
Festus.
Okay, let's hear you.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Festus.
Please, when he was making his submission, I heard him saying that the sex begins at a JHS, that is a junior high.
No,
No, but when you come to our areas over here, you see a class 3 people getting pregnant.
Okay, which area are you talking about, first of all?
Talking about Pando Oko.
Okay.
Yeah. People at class 3 get pregnant, class 4 gets pregnant, and then we talk about the sex education at the junior high school. I think it should rather be lower down to, if not the lower primary, maybe from class 3, then it should be the upper primary.
Okay.
Maybe some inclusive teaching and learning.
But how old would a pupil in Kwando Toko in class 3, how old would they be?
Okay, it depends. They are normally brought over banks. So let's say 15, 16 years going.
Okay. You sound like a teacher, are you?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, but is it part of the things that you do in the classroom? Would you teach your pupils about sex?
Yeah, we sometimes do it. Sometimes when we do it, parents in town, they get annoyed because they want to know about the in-depth of how they are taking care of their own world. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks for sharing the experience, though. Really appreciate it. Okay. But we haven't, and I didn't want to disturb the conversation. We haven't said that start the education in JHS. I think that what Ishmael said was start as early as possible. He gave the example of a colleague who taught the child who was in kindergarten about this is your private part. I am the only person who is supposed to, come close to it. All right. So I'll hear, because you said two reasons. Yeah, let's hear the reasons. Okay. Come to you, Kojo.
First is that the the young people are not in the church 24/7. They live in a world of reality where sexual activities are part of our daily lives, and they could engage in it at any time. So it's best that they know what to do should they ever venture into it. Secondly, the church is a sanctimonious organization, and it has values and principles. And one of those values and principles is, for me, from the Christendom, where it says that for lack of knowledge, my people perish. Educating young people in the church about contraception is not telling them to go and fornicate. It is an empowerment that they so require for their development and for the church. Short of that, there would continue to be situations where the others would point fingers at the church and say, you say you're Christians, you say you have such principles, but we are seeing abortion, people coming in for abortion from the church. We are seeing teenage pregnancy from people in the church youth group. And we come to church and we hear that some people have been banished from sitting in front and they're sitting in the back. Why? Because they've gone to have premarital sex and they are pregnant. Couldn't that have been avoided? Even empowering them and giving them support, psychosocial support and counseling, absolutely critical. So we need to educate the young people in the church. Don't keep them ignorant.
Okay. I'll hear Kojo's experience talking to young people in the church. But let me speak to my very last caller. Yusuf, thanks for calling.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Let's hear you.
I just want to contribute a little to the program. And my worry is about those of our sisters in the house who don't know how to take this contraceptive pills. Sometimes when they take it, it develops into a problem for them. I could remember one time ago, one of my good friends started doing it. She was complaining that for almost 3 months she didn't get her menses. When she told me she used to take this contraceptive pills. I don't know if they can, educate people about how and when to take these pills. And I hope it will have been a very good move for us to integrate it into the primary schools too. Because as we are in the primary schools, sometimes our workload is very high and there are a lot of issues that they want us to just integrate it into the teaching. You know, the time is not enough for us to just do all what they are expecting us to do. So if they can get some people to be going around and helping us to educate this our young ones, so they will grow up to know what is good for them and how to prevent this STIs and other things.
All right.
That's what I just want to contribute.
All right. Thank you very much, Yusuf, for that contribution. Really appreciate it. Okay, I'll allow you to comment on that, but I want to hear Koji's experience.
Yeah, before my experience, I think let me just give a comment on what Yusuf just said. I think, like I said, as individuals, we can always assess our sexual, frequency. The frequency that we engage in sexual intercourse, and know that if you are one person who is always one way or the other engaged in sexual activity, you should rather move into the mainstream, the regular contraceptive method, like the injectables and the implants and all that, rather than turning to using the EC as your main contraception. So, having said that, with my experience with the church, it is very, very interesting when you go to the church. You can't just enter an institution and tell them that I want to talk about this issue, like family planning and all that.
Usually they have to invite you.
Yes, they have to invite you. But what we do is that we first of all talk to key stakeholders in that institution. We talk to them, we go to them one-on-one, we have discussion with them, we tell them what is happening. We present the facts to them and all that. Some of them sometimes, because of their religious beliefs and all that, are very, 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 strict on these things. They wouldn't want to even talk about it. Now, the thing is that after talking to them, we identified some of the youth. We call them the peer educators. So they would actually do the education, not us. We wouldn't come there to with our assistance, of course. So we would identify some youth amongst them.
You train them,
we train
and then
them.
they carry the message
They carry
across.
the message to their peers, because it is very, very easy and simple. Like, for example, what's the issue we're all trying to, you know, to discuss? Like, how would a parent, you know, send a message to the son or the daughter? If for us, we use the system of the strategy of peer education. We select your peers, we train them, we give them enough information, and I think it is very, very easy when your peers should approach you and start having such discussions with you. So in the church, that is one way we used to, you know, to go into the church for the information to get to the people. So we identified some of the youth in the church. We trained them in a minimum of 5, excuse me, a minimum of 5-day training, and they, sorry.
Okay, let me allow you to, you know, to get your voice back.
I think
you
I'm
have it back now.
Yeah, I have it back now. So we have a 5-day training for them, and they go back with assistance from either our service providers or the project coordinator or whoever, to be part of the information or the discussions that they have, and also on daily basis doing their how do you call the Sunday schools and all that. They are given slots at that time to, you know, talk about these things, and the information is such a way that they wouldn't go straight to the point, use condom, use that. They just lay down the clear facts, like, you know, the consequences and all that. If you do this, this is what's going to happen. You can prevent yourself by using ABC and all that. So I think this is how we, you know, get into the churches and all that.
Okay, all right. I asked Ishmael to, you know, wrap it all up for us, you know, with the comments that came through, with the calls that we had.
Yeah. Okay. So one is that definitely there are hundreds of cases of sexual activity that we are getting signals of, and we know ourselves in the communities. And therefore, we cannot continue to play the ostrich. We need to open up to young people, give them the education, give them the support, and empower them to access and use contraceptives when they need.
Remember the Kwando issue, where people can buy it.
Exactly. Secondly, in the situations where people have need, genuine need, but they cannot afford it, there are some support structures and systems in place. Every Ghana Health Service facility in this country, including the polyclinics, the CHIPS compound, the community health centers, have family planning activities integrated into their service delivery. So any young person can walk into these facilities and access services with your health insurance card if you have. Or if you don't have, one of the principles is that if a young person walks into a facility and needs a service and cannot afford, genuinely cannot afford, that young person should not and must not be turned away. He or she should be supported with the service, and then however the cost of that is taken care of is a secondary matter. The third thing I want to talk about is also the concern about the I think it was the last caller, in relation to even the confidence of the young people in the communities to access the contraceptives, and then also sometimes the side effects that they experience when they use the contraceptives. And that's why it's absolutely important that the young people themselves also need to be responsible and be confident to be able to walk into the facility to talk to a service provider who knows and understands the workings of the methods and can help them manage the side effects, should there be any. It is their right to demand education. It is their right to ask questions. It is their right to get appropriate explanation of the workings of the methods. And for any contraception method, before you're put on it, you need to be educated and counseled properly. Your history must be taken to determine which of the methods would appropriately or effectively work for and with you. And after taking it, you need to go back to talk to your service provider to let them understand how it's going. And if there are complications, it is changed for you to ensure that the best one that suits your body is what you're on. So if you're having a problem with a particular method, don't just sit back and complain about it. Go back to the service provider and have a conversation, and they will sort it out for you, because it's your right.
Okay.
And you can access that service.
All right.
The last thing I really want to say again is that what we are doing in the tertiary institutions, this is just 3 of them, And we are doing it because the institutions have welcomed us, and they also appreciate the enormity of the challenge. And just that act of they opening up to us to do this is making a lot of difference in the lives of the young people in these institutions. And this is why we need this kind of partnership for the institutions, including the churches, to open up, for us to support these young people. Nobody is spoiling any case. If anything at all, we are trying to help these young people to put their life in a better perspective, to avoid all the myriads of challenges that they face in a day.
All right. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming through. Thanks for all the education, for all the insights. Hopefully and thankfully, somebody has been empowered because of the two of you on this subject. So thank you for your time. Kojo and Ishmael from PPAG. Do you have a website that somebody can go to, Ishmael?
Yeah. So you can go to the PPAG website, www.ppag-gh.org. for additional information, and you can also call any of our hotlines. You can call 0244-679597.
I couldn't even write it if I had a pen. You're too fast.
Sorry. So you can call and talk to anybody at PPAG. Call 0244-679597. Whatever services you need, we can assist and refer you to the appropriate providers.
All right, thank you very much. Basa was in action yesterday, and so if you missed the game, well, Kwame Jimo Ajimani, he's coming up next with all the sports. Stay with us.